The morning was quiet. Christine stood by the window holding a warm mug of coffee as the early sunlight filtered through the curtains. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like and share this video. It was her favorite part of the day, the few minutes of peace before the world fully woke up. Her eyes drifted to the backyard where a single towering apple tree stood like a silent sentinel. It had been there longer than she had. Its thick, gnarled branches and weathered bark had watched generations pass through the property. To Christine, it was more than just a tree. It was part of the family. But today, something felt different. She squinted through the glass. The tree looked off-tired almost. The branches, once proud and full of bright red apples, now sagged under their own weight. The leaves were dull, some curling at the edges, and there was a strange discoloration near the base. Christine blinked, trying to brush away the unease growing in her chest. Her fingers ached with arthritis, and somehow, the sight of the old tree wilting felt familiar. Like it was aging with her. Then came the white fuzz. At first, she thought it was just fungus, but the way it crept up the trunk, covering the bark in patches, made her stomach twist. The fruit began to rot in places, soft, blackened, unnatural. It wasn't just old age. Something was very wrong. Alarmed, she called a local tree removal expert, Glenn Conway, and hoped he would tell her it was nothing serious. But when Glenn arrived, the mood shifted quickly. He inspected the base of the tree in silence, then stood and gave a small shake of his head. "It's too far gone," he said. "We'll need to cut it down." Christine nodded slowly. She hated the idea, hated the loss, but she understood. Trees, like people, had their time. What neither of them realized was that this tree had one last secret to reveal. Christine stayed inside while Glenn got to work. The loud growl of the chainsaw echoed through the backyard. Sawdust flew into the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. She watched him slice through diseased wood, carefully bagging parts of it like they were hazardous. He changed his face mask for something more industrial. The way he handled the tree now wasn't routine, it was cautious, almost nervous. Then everything stopped. The chainsaw fell silent. Christine saw Glenn standing completely still, staring into the hollow base of the tree. His face had turned ghostly pale. Their eyes met through the window. He raised a hand and shouted, "Go back inside! Call the police!" Christine froze. Her heart pounded as she backed away from the glass. From the kitchen, she could hear him dialing someone. Through the open window came a single chilling word: explosive. It didn't feel real. Minutes dragged by like hours. Finally, Glenn re-entered the house, removing his mask with shaky hands. "You won't believe this," he said. "There's an old grenade in the trunk." Christine gasped. A grenade? In her tree? Soon after, police cruisers arrived and cordoned off the yard with yellow tape. Officers surrounded her home. Some stood guard while others examined the site. One of them was kind enough to show her a photo. Embedded in the hollow core of the tree was a rusted, mud-covered hand grenade. Not just any kind either. It was identified as a relic from World War I. The situation had escalated from a routine yard cleanup to a potential bomb threat. Christine asked why they couldn't just remove it. The answer was far from comforting. The bomb squad specialist wouldn't be available until the next morning. Until then, sandbags were placed around the stump to contain any potential blast. And just in case, an officer remained at her door overnight to protect the property and her. That night, Christine didn't sleep. She sat alone on her couch, staring at the dark shape of the apple tree through the back window. It had been a fixture of her life for decades. Her kids had climbed it. She had mowed around it hundreds of times. Now, she realized, she had been living just feet away from a live explosive for who knows how long. What if it had gone off? What if something worse had happened? And the biggest question of all, how had it gotten there in the first place? Morning came slowly, and with it, the unmistakable sound of heavy tires crunching against gravel. Christine peeked through the curtains to see a large bomb disposal unit pulling into her driveway. Men in full-body protective suits stepped out, carrying specialized equipment. She felt her breath catch as they approached the tree stump like surgeons heading into an operating room. Calm, precise, but with a visible tension in their movement. She stood at the window, hands clasped together, silently praying that whatever was about to happen would go smoothly. The lead technician knelt near the trunk and began carefully clearing away layers of dirt and wood fragments. Every move was slow and deliberate. Christine could barely watch. She had lived in that house for over 40 years, and now every inch of her backyard felt foreign dangerous. What had once been a place for barbecues, birthdays, and childhood laughter was now an active bomb site. Then, after nearly an hour, one of the technicians raised a hand. They had successfully removed the grenade. Wrapped gently in a protective case, the old rusted explosive was transported to a nearby facility to be safely disposed of. But even as the immediate danger passed, questions remained. Why had a grenade from WWI been hidden in the trunk of a suburban apple tree? And how long had it been there? Later that afternoon, a detective knocked on Christine's door. He had questions standard, he said, but they both knew this wasn't a standard case. She explained the tree's age, how her family had owned the home since 1980, and how no previous owners had ever mentioned anything unusual. The detective told her that during both World Wars, it wasn't unheard of for military training exercises to happen in rural areas, even near civilian properties. Some soldiers had taken home souvenirs. Others had been careless, leaving equipment behind. And sometimes those items were buried, intentionally or not. But there was something else. The grenade showed signs of having been carefully stuck into the hollow core in a way that suggested someone didn't just drop it by accident. It was wedged in, almost hidden, perhaps even forgotten. It hadn't gone off because, according to the bomb squad, the detonation mechanism had jammed due to moisture and years of decay. A malfunction. A miracle. Christine felt her knees go weak. All those years, mowing the lawn, letting her grandchildren play, climbing the tree. If anything had gone differently, she might not have been standing there. The days that followed were a blur. News vans parked outside. Reporters knocked on her door. The story spread fast. Suburban grandma finds Renee in apple tree. Her phone rang non-stop. Neighbors offered comfort, jokes, and casseroles. Some even asked if she was going to sell the house. Christine just smiled. She wasn't going anywhere. The tree was gone now, but in its place stood something more powerful than roots and branches, a story that would live on forever. A reminder of how history can hide in the most ordinary places. A lesson in paying attention to what's beneath the surface. As for Christine, she still wakes up early every morning, coffee in hand, and looks out over the yard. It feels different now, but not worse. In a strange way, that moment reconnected her to her past, her family, and the fleeting fragility of life. She still misses the tree, but not what was hiding inside.